What type of king was Manasseh in Judah? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 2 Kings on walking through the Bible.
His word, the glory of his cross.
Today we're going to be discussing 2 Kings chapter 21, verses 1 to 9, but before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 2 Kings chapter 21, verse 1. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 2 Kings chapter 21, beginning at verse 1. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hezekiah, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord, according to the abominations of the nations whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. For he rebuilt the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed. He raised up altars for Baal, and made a wooden image, as Ahab, king of Israel, had done, and he worshipped all the host of heaven and served them. He also built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord had said, In Jerusalem I will put my name. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. Also he made his son pass through the fire, practiced soothsaying, used witchcraft, and consulted spiritists and mediums. He did much evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. He even set a carved image of Asherah that he had made in the house of the Lord, in the house of which the Lord had said to David and to Solomon his son, In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever, and I will not make the feet of Israel wander any more from the land which I gave their fathers, only if they are careful to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to all my law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they paid no attention, and Manasseh seduced them to do more evil than the nations whom the Lord had destroyed before the children of Israel. In chapters 18 through 20, we covered the reign of Hezekiah. Hezekiah was a king in Judah, few of which were comparable to him. Why? Because he was a righteous king like David. Sure, there were other righteous kings in Judah, but only 3 of the 19 total kings in Judah carried the epitaph that he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, like his father David did. Only Asa before him and Josiah after him would carry that epitaph. And the reason is, not only was Hezekiah righteous himself, he got the nation to be righteous before God too. Hezekiah tore down all the sacred pillars in the high places that had been erected under his father Ahaz. He restored the proper temple worship, including the observance of the Passover, as we'll see when we study 2 Chronicles. And because of his righteousness, God prospered him under his reign, much like God prospered David. During David's reign, David conquered Jerusalem, making it Israel's capital. Hezekiah would expand its walls to not only include the city of David and the Temple Mount, but the western hill of Jerusalem as well, further protecting it from attack. Hezekiah even built a tunnel that was able to bring water into the city to what became known as the Pool of Siloam. And like David, Hezekiah's reign was one that was protected from attack from outside nations. Sure, nations tried to take Judah, but they all failed because the Lord was with Hezekiah and with Judah. But Hezekiah couldn't live forever, and although his life was extended by 15 years due to the fervent prayer of Hezekiah, Hezekiah did die around the age of 54, having ruled Judah for 29 years. On our timeline, we date his death to around 698 BC, with Manasseh his son reigning in his place. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, meaning he likely had a regent or an advisor helping him until he was old enough to reign on his own. And he reigned for 55 years over Judah, making him the longest reigning monarch of any king of Judah or Israel for that matter. We will now move our timeline up in order to accommodate Manasseh's reign. As for the type of reign that Manasseh had, you could easily describe it as the complete opposite of his father. Whereas Hezekiah was a religious reformer, bringing the people back to God, Manasseh was a religious reformer, taking the people away from God. Manasseh rebuilt the high places that Hezekiah had torn down. He introduced Baal worship into Judah, as Ahab had done in Israel. He built other altars in the house of the Lord to sacrifice upon, and even erected a carved image of Asherah there to worship. Think about this. This temple was the place where God told David and Solomon he would place his name and bend his ear towards. And Manasseh was making it a temple to worship false gods at. And if that wasn't bad enough, he made his sons pass through the fire, an abomination railed against in Leviticus 18, verse 21. He practiced soothsaying, witchcraft, consulted spiritists and mediums, contrary to what Deuteronomy 18, 9-14 said. In actuality, if the law of Moses spoke against it, Manasseh seemed to be for it and practiced it. It was so bad that Manasseh was said that to have seduced Judah to do more evil than the nations whom the Lord had destroyed before the children of Israel took the land. Think about that for a moment. God was so angry at the Amorites that he actually dispossessed them of their land as punishment. And Manasseh caused Judah to do worse things than that. Now you might ask, how would Manasseh turn out so bad, seeing as how righteous his father was? Well, this does teach us that our faith isn't genetic. Righteous parents can produce wicked children, just as wicked parents can produce righteous children. Righteousness and wickedness has nothing to do with parentage, but solely depends on whether we walk before God in faith, doing what God says is right or not. Sure, our parents can steer us in the right or wrong direction, but the choice of whether to obey God or not is entirely our own. But I suggest here that there is something else likely at play here too. How old was Manasseh when he came to the throne? 12. And like we said, that meant that he likely had a regent or advisor helping him rule in the beginning, just like Joash did about 130 years earlier. But unlike Joash, who had righteous advisors, Manasseh obviously had wicked ones, who likely didn't like the reforms that Hezekiah brought in and sought to reverse them. They thus influenced Manasseh to allow them to do this. Manasseh agreed and would follow after their example. Yes, Manasseh is responsible for his actions, but if we surround ourselves with evil people, we shouldn't be surprised if we copy their evil ways, because evil can often look so enticing. But if Manasseh's reign was this evil, more evil than the evil of the Amorites, what would the Lord's reaction to this be? We'll find that out, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 2 Kings chapter 21, verses 10 to 18, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.